Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Sonic Talk Podcast. I'm your host for today, Alex Peel, and with me is Jason Berry.
Hello.
Today we will be interviewing the writer of Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic Universe, Mega Man, the new Crusaders, and the upcoming webcomic Silvana, Ian Flynn. We don't know how long the interview will be, and all of these questions have been taken from fans, from Bumble King, Segabix, and Sonic Stadium. So sit back and enjoy the ride, and if you ask your question, hopefully you'll get answered. Until then, enjoy this nice little Sonic tune that Jason Berry has picked out for you.
Here we go.
And we're back. I hope you enjoyed that spectacular piece of Sonic music that Jason picked out for you. So, we're here with Ian Flynn now.
Hello!
How are you doing today, Mr. Flynn?
I'm doing alright. How are you?
Oh, I'm spectacular.
Oh, so you're trying to one-up me now. I'm good.
Yes.
You're spectacular. Alright, I see how it is. As you wait for the end of this, you will see my true power level.
So, I guess let's get to some questions. Sonic Blue Ranger of the Bumble King forums asks, will Sonic and Mega Man remember the events of Worlds Collide, or will they just shrug it off?
You're going to have to see what happens at the end of Worlds Collide to find that out.
And
that's not just blowing you off. It's a complicated answer if I were to give you a straight answer, so instead of giving you every little detail, I'm just going to say you're just going to have to see how it plays out.
Well, that does sound a bit more interesting than what I was expecting, because I thought it would just take place outside of the continuity, kind of like Sonic Genesis sort of did, aside from the robotization thing.
Yeah, Genesis ended with a fairly happy ending, a pretty straightforward, okay, they're going back to normal.
And then Sally gets roboticized.
Collide is not going to end nearly as nice and pretty.
Really? Huh. All right, so
Genesis does what Worlds Collide don't, or something like that.
with another question from Mr. Blue Ranger, with the Sonic Mega Man crossover in full swing, I've been wondering what else you would like to cross Sonic over with. Archie property or non-Archie property doesn't matter.
I'm game for pretty much anything. I think the one thing most of all would be Sonic and Mario to finally cross over. Aside from the Olympic Games, which nothing against the Olympic Games, they're pretty fun, but a real story crossover. But pretty much any Nintendo property out there, we could probably find a way to make it work. Some easier than others, obviously. I mean.
All right, mind if I throw a few at you?
Shoot.
Sonic and Fire Emblem.
And whoa, that's out of left field.
Yeah.
I missed what you said.
As far as story crossovers, you wanted to throw a few out for you. Sonic and Fire Emblem.
Yes.
Okay, Fire Emblem. See, that's what I missed.
Oh, okay. Didn't hear that part.
No, that's why I asked. Yes. Fire Emblem would be interesting. There certainly would be a lot of character-driven stuff. My wife's been playing through Awakening recently and absolutely delighting in it. So
that's a pretty big cast.
That could be interesting.
Interesting. Huh. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Jason, have any other ones you want to throw out there?
Oh, for crossovers with Sonic?
Yes.
I already said Star Fox probably wouldn't work too good.
Well, that's because Star Fox spends
Yeah.
I mean, I think it would work straight out the back because, they're all talking animal people, but probably the first thing would happen would be McCloud looks at Sonic and goes, "Where are your pants?" So
I don't know, maybe Kirby. That'd be kind of a trip.
Kirby would be weird, but doable. I mean, I think if we were to do that, I'd like to play with Sonic kind of going, all right, I've been to the special zone. I've been through the multiverse. This is still the weirdest thing I've ever come across.
Why do I have
But then again,
these
you would
cute
have
little
King
things?
Day and Dr. Eggman teaming up, and that would probably rival the Eggman-Wily team-up. So, I don't know.
Well, I guess the sky's the limit with crossovers then, huh?
Still definitely work better than others. I mean,
Yeah.
Metroid Sonic crossover might be pushing the limits, but I don't know.
I'm a little surprised you named him Mario, though, because Mario doesn't really have much of a story to work with.
Oh, that makes it all the easier. It's nice and it's open. You've got, I mean, it wouldn't be probably anything more in-depth than what they've done in some of the Olympic Games. But even then, the story works out. Eggman and Bowser team up to do something nefarious. Sonic and Mario come together to stop them.
Huh.
It doesn't have to be...
Yeah, it can be more like a Sonic X sort of thing. Yeah, that works. All right, next question is from Sorcerer Spudhead. Mr. Flynn, in a recent interview, you said you might enjoy putting Mephiles in a story. What could you potentially do with him?
It depends on the nature of how we would bring Mephiles into the book. I'm of one of the firm believers that the Time Eater in Generations was meant to be a nod to Mephiles. Like that was just whatever was left over when Solaris got blown apart at the apex nexus of time.
Huh.
Or if we were to play with continuity a bit and, say he escaped before Shadow, could put him in the Scepter of Darkness. I don't know. It would hinge a lot on where Mephiles comes from in the timeline and what his power set would be from that. Something I would like to investigate is the kind of weird fixation he had on getting Shadow to join him. I was actually going through some of the cutscenes of 06, doing a little bit of research, and I'd forgotten just how much Mephiles seems bent on turning Shadow to his side. Now, probably it's ultimately to stab him in the back because he does that. He greatly enjoys backstabbing in the most literal of senses, but I don't know. It could be interesting to play the two off each other, but I don't know. A lot of factors would have to go into it. A lot of thought, a lot of preparation.
All right. Merrick says that what made you decide to adapt Super Adventure Rockman before the events of Mega Man 3?
I knew I'd be getting that one a lot. In part because Super Adventure Rockman doesn't fit in continuity anywhere nicely. When you've got the Mega Man 2 and Mega Man 3 Robot Masters, you've got Beat showing up before he's even supposed to be built. It's just, when you get down to it, it could fit anywhere between 2, 3, and 4, and that's just a mess trying to figure it out. So what we're going to be doing with the Curse of Ra Moon, that arc, is going to massage it a bit so that it helps set up events of Mega Man 3 better.
So I'd like to add another question to that. Regarding Mega Man 3, what made you decide to, like with the first two Mega Man games, it was the game, then an original arc, then another game. Like you've really been taking your time building up Mega Man 3. Could you tell us why?
Well, it isn't so much we're building up 3 as circumstances have been pushing it back. Originally, it was supposed to go Spiritus Ex Machina and then Curse of Ra Moon. Just boom, 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 go, go, go. And then Capcom said, Mega Man's 20th anniversary is coming up. We'd like you to do an issue that celebrates that. So that's where Rock of Ages came from, and we're sitting there going, all right, how are we going to make that work within the context of the arc? And then the crossover came up and said, all right, the crossover is going to happen right here. So if we had gone ahead with Raw Moon, it would have diced up the story into about 7 different parts all over the place. So he said, you know what, let's just take it slow with this and spend some time exploring the extended universe a bit. And that's why we took time to have a Gutsman story, an Iceman story, give Roll a shining spotlight. We did the 2-part Proto-Man story, which I think is worth every page it's on. Man, that story came together. Oh, I freaking love that one. There was the Rock of Ages, which was the 20th anniversary celebration. And then we had the setup that led into the crossover, which will lead into Curse of Ra Moon, and then we'll get into Mega Man 3, and we will move on, and everything will be wonderful and tickety-boo.
Yay.
Yay!
And just a little bit of trivia for anyone who doesn't know what this game is. Super Adventure Rockman was, I believe, an FMV game released exclusively for the PlayStation in Japan.
Right.
I'm right.
It was,
okay.
Yeah, it was, I guess, technically a first-person shooter adventure game.
Really?
Because it's kind of like the old... Do you remember... what was it called? Dragon's Lair?
Yes.
Animated by Don Bluth, and you had to hit left, right, or center, or whatever, and not get eaten, and it was impossible because there was no telling what you were supposed to do. Stupid game! Not that I have any lingering issues with that, but it was a lot like that. You had a whole bunch of, cutscenes that you went through, and then you would have a boss fight where it was first person, and you tried to shoot the Robot Master as he jumped all over the screen and just threw all sorts of crazy crap at you.
Considering how Mega Man 8 came out with its anime scenes, I'm kind of glad that didn't come to the States. With Dr. Light sounding like Elmer Fudd. I'll say.
Yeah. Eventually I want to... See, I'd love to make a joke about that. One day Dr. Light has a head cold. Mega Man, that's the way we got it. I need to do it, a Mega Buster. But that just really wouldn't read well in a silent medium. So,
yeah.
Oh well. In-joke that can never happen.
Unless there's a cartoon at some point. So, will Team Fighters continue to exist after they get Sally back?
Yes. After the crossover, we're going to be kind of re-examining the whole Team Freedom, Team Fighters, and Freedom Fighters in general dynamic. And once the team gets back together in total... it'll have to be reevaluated anyway. We're playing with it. You'll kind of see where we're thinking of going once the post-crossover stuff really starts rolling.
So, Spinehog asks, what Sonic game would you like to mesh into the comic universe next?
I'm not really pressed to do any right now, and anything else would be... kind of backpedaling at this point. If I could do it all over again, I'd love it if we could kind of go back to Sonic Heroes and, I don't know, tighten it up a little bit. Kind of dig into some of the nuance that really wasn't there, or it was easy to miss, I should say, in the game.
Yeah. The Sonic Universe story had nuance?
We need a hot fan of Sonic Heroes.
Well, I mean, there was another interview I was on recently that I brought this up, so I apologize for anyone who's going, oh, here he goes again. But there's a stage for Team Chaotix. It's in Rail Canyon, and the mission is destroy 20 or something capsules. And if you go through it and just destroy the capsules, that's all there is to it. Who cares? But if you look at it, the capsules are all stasis pods for Shadow clones. So Eggman was sending Team Chaotix to destroy the Shadow Clone army before Neo Metal Sonic could unleash them upon the world.
Huh.
That's really neat!
Wow.
They touch on it! It's just destroy the capsules, just like, okay, capsules, hermit crabs, whatever, who cares? No! Team Chaotix took out like a small army of Shadow Clones all by themselves, and they didn't even know they were doing it. That's great!
So that perfectly encapsulates just what was wrong with Sonic Heroes plotline, where even when it had some good ideas, it didn't use them at all.
Yeah, I didn't mind Sonic Heroes' plotline. It was nice and simple. That simple is good, but at the same time, just oh well.
I just hated the dialogue in that whole game.
Little nuances, just don't notice.
Yeah, I admit it was the dialogue that killed it for me too. But
Well, that was kind of a dark period. Anyway.
We'll destroy them with the power of teamwork.
Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna go see Sonic. You guys want to join? Okay, here's a super shield. Sonic, you're
and I apologize if that I did not have time to watch the Super Power Flower Hour interview, so unfortunately, any information that came out of that is still unknown to me. But you know,
just down and listen for
no,
hour and 15 minutes.
Oh no, I had lots of papers to write and things to study. It was insane these last few weeks.
You need to sit on the internet and listen to men talk about cartoon hedgehogs. Get your priorities right now.
So American Risk Star asks, are there any plans to integrate yet to be seen game characters into the comic like the Werehog?
Maybe.
Okay, maybe.
Not saying, not commenting, not getting into nothing. You'll see. We got plans. Plans are ahead. There are characters. There are plans.
I'd kind of like to see the Werehog. I'm a little bit of a Werehog fan, one of the very few.
I can live without Werehog. Unless he's played for laughs. But
it's funny, the divide over who likes Werehog is really stark. If it's one of the old guard, one of the Genesis crowd who stuck with it for all the years, you hated Werehog. But if you were one of the new generation who kind of started with Unleashed or around that period, the kids just absolutely love Werehog.
Well, I am both, so I am indifferent. Like it was like the Werehog's gameplay was better than most alternate gameplays, so the design wasn't that bad.
It went fun with the Werehog.
I mean, a Werehog with stretchy arms was certainly a creative idea. I mean, about as creative as a super fast hedgehog.
I still don't understand the stretchy arms part, how they managed to incorporate that. But compared to like the alternate gameplay of Sonic Adventure 2 and 1, I thought it was all right. It just went on. I think the levels went on for way too long. If they were like 10 minutes to 15 minutes each, it'd be a lot more.
Oh yeah.
That would be like my biggest complaint with pretty much every Sonic game from Adventure to Unleashed is that they padded the games way too much to the point where it kind of hurt them more than helped. But when you have critics saying that, well, this game only lasted me 3 hours, therefore it was not worth $50. And, well, what are you going to do? Anyway, Miss Lyons says that, hi, Ian. What?
So I wonder if that's if she's really commenting on Aunt May's dog from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
I just hope I didn't typo this. Hi, Ian. I'll have the usual. Mr. Flynn, if robotics were to advance to the level they are in the year 20XX, and you were around to see it, do you think your honest stance toward bringing them closer to humans would be closer to Dr. Light, Agent Stern, or the Emerald Spears?
I really liked that question. I looked over some of
That's one of the best ones that we had.
And that's one that's like, makes me think. That's fun. I think, personally, I would be somewhere between, well, not between, I would be a bipolar mix of Dr. Light and Agent Stern, because the prospects of that kind of utopia society, when I'm writing Dr. Light, it's not really the character. I'm kind of expounding my own hopes and dreams for a super advanced robotic future. But then reality comes in, and reality sucks, because reality's never as much fun as the ideal.
Yeah.
And that's where Stern comes in, and there's so many dangers and so many moral questions. So when you see any scene of Dr. Light and Agent Stern arguing, it's basically me arguing with myself on the page. Wouldn't this be great? Yeah, but this is why it would be wrong. But this is why it would be fun, and this is why it would lead to the death of all of humanity. Just back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen those Japanese robots that they have like as women, and they put this kind of synthetic fake skin on them, and they have that uncanny valley? That just really creeps me out on those.
I must admit that conversation at but between those two is probably one of my favorite exchanges in the entire series so far. And I wasn't sure if you're really going to go there, start asking questions about robotics and humanity and stuff, even though it would seem like such an obvious direction to go with Mega Man, because, well, whenever I think of an all-ages book, I don't really think of that kind of writing. So,
see, this is a personal pet peeve. I hate it when folks approach all-ages writing as something that is inherently unenjoyable.
Yeah.
They associate all ages with kiddie stuff, and that's not the point. But I mean, there is all ages stuff that's just problem out there. You can't help that. But for me, all ages means all ages. It's something that everyone is going to enjoy. And if we just stuck to Mega Man runs right and blows up robots, it'd be
that would be boring. Yeah. I'm really glad. I'm really glad that you've been able to add so many things like this to the story, and you've written it well. You didn't. I always worry when a writer's going to try to add a deeper discussion to these kinds of books that maybe they'll come off as pretentious or something. But it felt. I've never been good at criticism. Sorry, but.
That's okay. Sing my praise. I will allow it.
It read very honestly, I guess I'll say. Honestly.
Good. That's what I was aiming for.
So, great job on that little exchange. And hopefully we'll see more stuff like that. In addition, of course, all the kick-ass action.
Well, of course.
This is also from Miss Lyons. Since you incorporated Gutsman's love of karaoke, does that mean Elec Man also has his love of the guitar?
Of course.
All right.
Elec Man sounds like somebody going for office.
God. You just have to say that. Now there's a robot politician and an Obama poster in my head. Thank you. While it's sad that characters like Mighty and Ray don't seem likely to appear in any games in the distant future, it does provide you to take liberties with the characters like redesigns and family ties, despite their Sega roots. My question is, if you could choose one of the Sega Sonic characters for this same fate to happen now, who would it be? Keep in mind that while you have more liberties with that character, she would no longer appear in any future Sonic game titles.
That was another good question. And I don't really have an answer for it, because when you get down to it, it's no one. Because any character that I would really like to have a little more freedom with and just play around with are so good I want to see them more in the games. I mean, one of the first Sorry, one too many hits to the head. One of the first characters I would think of would be Blaze, because she's such an interesting character and there's so much to her world that can be explored. But she's also probably the best female character in Sonic right now.
Yeah.
And I don't want to remove her from the games. So I would rather work within the constraints and see what comes along than, in this hypothetical situation, get to take something off and go, mine, all mine. Nah.
Blaze is probably is not only my favorite new Sonic character, but probably one of the few Sonic characters that has really ever actually gotten any character development within the games. I mean, I think it's pretty much her, Tails, and I guess Shadow, but Shadow the Hedgehog was so confusing that I don't know if that counts.
Well, Knuckles did at the start.
Oh, what you say?
You got to give Blaze credit, because she started out as a magical princess from another dimension.
And that sounds so lame.
That sounds like one of the worst fan characters you could find, and yet she still endures as one of the best characters, so she beat the odds. Way to go, Blaze. You're 1 in a million.
So, Ogilvy Maurice exclaims, are there going to be any long-term effects of the second Genesis wave being reversed. While the first wave seems negligible, surely ripping the fabric of space-time twice has more enormous repercussions. Exponential compounding damage and all.
I really don't want to get into details of what's going to come after the crossover, but yes, the second Genesis wave is going to have huge repercussions.
Ooh.
I mean, a lot of folks, after Genesis, the first one wrapped up, were like, that's it? August gets all funky and we're missing the cancel? That's all? So it's like, all right, you want the Genesis wave to cause some differences? We'll give you differences. Oh, the differences you're going to have. Your plate's going to be covered in differences.
Keep your mouths shut.
We'll give you differences. No, seriously. We're really taking advantage of this situation, and the number of doors that we're going to be opening up has got me really excited about the future of the book.
Well, if you're excited, then I'm really excited.
There you go, one-upping me again. All right.
That's my goal to wrap this podcast. I'm going to continue to try to be more excited and happy than you are.
Okay.
Once Silver is able to save Sally, will he be allowed to return to his future? If the future never deteriorates as a result of Sally's loss, does that mean Mogul will never turn repentant and Silver will have to face his former master? Now, I didn't really want to ask this because it does kind of get into the whole future plot territory, but you read through, so just give us a nice vague answer.
It sounds a little fan suggestive too, as far as plot goes.
It is, but at the same time, it's kind of blatantly out there, you know?
Yeah.
The whole point is Mogul is a villain. Oh, he's reformed in the future. Well, what if he didn't have to reform? It's a fairly logical leap, so I don't really take that so much as a fan suggest idea.
But it did cover something I really did want to hear asked, so I
don't want to get into that so much as, just remind folks that Silver left the Time Stone behind. So even after he rescues Sally, he has no Time Stone.
Oh, that's right.
Now, Mogul left him a cryptic note that would potentially lead him home, and, we haven't been to Little Planet yet, so there are potentially Time Stones to be found and stories to be told. But immediately, no, Silver wouldn't be able to just go, okay, I'm done, back to my happy future for lollipops. Yay!
So Silver is not going anywhere for a while, huh?
No.
Blaze Heatnix asks, you've mentioned that the way you write Mega Man and the way you write Sonic are completely different. In what ways?
Really, it's the approach. Because Mega Man is, in the long-term plotting, already done. We started at Mega Man 1. They've completed games up through Mega Man 10. And there's, a plot thread that runs through all of them. So, in terms of all that, the plotting was done before I even started the project. And what I'm doing is I'm approaching the series and putting the pieces into place as we move forward. So I already know where we're going. It's just navigating there the best way. With Sonic, it's much more open-ended. There's not like a game that we're aiming towards. It's not like we're starting at Sonic 1 and making our way towards Generations. We're potentially past Generations. I don't know. In terms of full game adaptations, that's really fuzzy. But the point being, with Sonic, it's what do we want to do to continue instead of we know where we're going, how are we going to get there the best way. You know what I'm saying? It's less of a immediate objective we're going for. There's a little more freedom in terms of where we want to go.
And whereas with Sonic, you know where you are, you know where you're going to be 6 months from today. With Mega Man, you pretty much have a basic outline of, I guess, the next 10 years or something.
I actually went ahead of myself.
Oh, sorry. I
kind of have a plot synopsis going out through 2023. So,
wow.
The book lasts that long. We're ready. I got it.
2023. This reminds me of, I want to remind you We're almost at issue Sonic 250, and so in a mere 10 issues, you will have been on the Sonic comic for 100 issues.
Really?
Yes. You are. That's what, about, damn it. I think pretty close to 10 years with my really rough, crappy, if my really rough, crappy math is correct. Well, no, not 10 years. 8 years. 8 years, yes. And you've already written about as much Sonic content as I think any other author. Like between about 46 issues of Sonic Universe, and so you've been around. So you've written a considerable amount of Sonic content at this point.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, homework project for all you people who really like to count. How much page content do I have versus Carl Bowlers and Ken Penders?
Yeah,
and
even
any
I
of the other writers
that.
you want to come in there, but not to diminish their work, but there's been 3 primary writers that have.
And don't forget, he's also been on Sonic X, and he's done a couple of Free Comic Book Day comics, and that there's also that Sonic 4 Episode 2 adaptation. So, yeah, you have some extensive content to go through, guys.
There's a little bit. I've written my fair share of Hedgehog.
Oh, yeah. The rough estimate in my head, I mean, you're at least up there with Penders and Bowlers at this point. Which is pretty incredible considering you came on as a fan.
Yeah. I suckered them good, didn't I?
Anyway, next question.
Yes, next question. Moving on.
Ghost Anjo asks, Ian, if you were ever offered to write for the games or the Sonic the Hedgehog movie or cartoon, would you do it? And I think we know what this is. Yes.
Why would I not?
Oh, maybe.
Seriously, if I turned that down, just lock me up because I've lost my mind. Just yes. Gimme.
Well, that was an easy one. Diamond Death asks, are there any stories that are considered no longer canon? Or are there parts of stories that have been retconned to have happened differently? For example, in Sonic Archive 0, the Freedom Fighters attempt to reclaim the Crown of Acorns and their mysterious jewels, but the crown is later seen on Max's head within the Zone of Silence.
Yeah, I don't want to automatically discount anything that came before, but if it's not meshing with what's coming out now, I would say that it's, more or less discounted. I mean, when the book was first starting in the Archive 0 period, they weren't planning a long narrative. They figured the book would be dead within 2 years.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of hard to be beholden to something that's just thrown together for a funny book. Pretty much, the encyclopedia and the current run is the final word on continuity when it comes down to it.
So things like, I guess, Amy's wish with the rings or whatever that was her just changing her looks, but not really her age. I think is how it was interpreted in the encyclopedia.
Actually, the next question on the list.
I don't have the encyclopedia on hand, but when I wrote it, it was supposed to have aged her. That's what the book said. So unless something was edited and I'm not aware of it, Amy used the ring, she made herself look different and was older. That's the continuity as far as I remember.
All right. I think that was the next question. Either the recent encyclopedia... Oh, yeah, okay, I guess we can skip that one. Jamie Bond Ponders asks...
No, it's just... I'm sorry. While I was writing these out, I started to get bored, and I'd part ponders or queries or...
Hey, don't start doing things like that. Asking these questions to Ian Flynn is serious business. Don't mess with
Very
that.
serious.
Very
So
serious.
very serious.
I'm going to have to punish you for this later.
I'm sorry. It took me like 4 hours to filter all the...
Okay. So, that guy, what is a plot idea you wanted to do, but could not for whatever reason?
The original endangered species arc.
Huh.
Let's just dust off that question and move on.
Okay.
Forward.
All right, next question. La Lay 2001 asks, what inspired the creation of Quake Woman, Lalinde, and the Emerald Spears?
Quake Woman and Dr. Lalinde were introduced to give some much-needed female presence to the franchise, because the only female robot master is Splash Woman, and maybe Roll and Plum if you want to be obscure.
Wow.
It was mostly dude robots everywhere. So we introduced Dr. Lalinde to have another human female in the mix and flesh out Dr. Light's side of things a little bit. And Quake Woman was introduced, one, to be another robot master that could conceivably be like a boss robot or something that legitimately would give Mega Man a power-up. And two, introduce a female character to the franchise that wasn't a love interest or a Mary Sue. That was paramount in my mind going in. I did not want her to be the Sally of Mega Man. Just no. And she became this vehicle to explore the pros and cons of having a thinking, feeling robot. So, and it gives us someone that we can actually build and grow with because, being a licensed comic, again, there isn't a lot of room to grow the main cast. The Emerald Spears were introduced to give us somebody to antagonize Mega Man that wasn't Dr. Wily yet again. Is it Dr. X? Is it Mr. X? No, it's Dr. Wily. Are the Constellation droids the enemies? No, it's Dr. Wily yet again. Oh no, robots have gone crazy. Oh wait, no, it's Dr. Wily pulling the strings.
Well, you have to admire Dr. Wily's persistence. I mean, he even gets so bored with it that he pretends to be other people.
Imagine he's just got a dartboard. All right, what way am I going to trick all the stupid people? Oh no, it's a giant dinosaur. Wait, no, it's Dr. Wily. So the Emerald Spears were to give Mega Man somebody else to confront, and at the same time do something a little different, because we didn't want to do another mad scientist with robots. That's Dr. Wily's shtick. And it's really hard to fight a robot because robots are pretty bloody powerful, and then you have Mega Man who blows up powerful robots. So making the Emerald Spears strictly human and anti-robotic puts Mega Man at a disadvantage simply because, by the laws of robotics, he can't fight. And that gives him an interesting challenge to overcome.
So,
kind of a nod to the old cartoon, because the production studio who made the Mega Man cartoon in the 90s was called Ruby Spears.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Huh. You were really good with these references,
I tried.
Dano asks, now that you've got your first big arc done, can you tell us a little bit about what it was like writing the New Crusaders?
New Crusaders was interesting because, in a sense, it's another licensed book, but we are the license. I mean, with Sonic and Mega Man, it's very easy to say, oh no, big bad Sega or Capcom aren't letting us do X, Y, and Z, which is hardly ever the case, but, it's a good lie. I mean, excuse me.
You better not say that, because some people think that all that stuff is lies.
Right. Somebody's going to come back with this. Oh, Ian Flynn admitted to lying to everyone. Let's get our torches and pitchforks because he's such a bad man. Ah!
And then they'll burn us because we were around you.
Quick, shield me with your bodies. With New Crusaders, it's we're bringing back the brand after a 40-year hiatus almost.
Not counting the DC comics, which I don't really think you will count those.
So it really is kind of like a 40-year hiatus, and a lot of people look at Archie comics and don't think serious superhero book. So there's a lot of uphill challenges just figuring out how we wanted to tell the story and how we wanted to approach the characters and how we wanted to do the format. It's been a very interesting growing and learning experience in a lot of ways.
It was a little darker than I was expecting.
See, I told people that this was going to be all ages, but with some teeth. There would be blood, there would be death, there would be 4-letter words dropped. And everything that comes up in the reviews is like, oh, wow, this is really dark for an Archie book. Yes, it's dark! We were going for dark. It's a superhero book. Come on.
But I will say that that the book was as good as I was hoping it would be. I was really hoping, crossing my fingers, this was going to be a really kick-ass book because you were working with essentially Archie's characters, and you were really going to be in your element with these characters, and you succeeded, in my opinion. I mean, it was a very fun book to read.
Well, even Archie itself is starting to get more adult. What with like Life with Archie, there's a lot of adult stuff in that as well.
Well, yeah, I don't really like the word adult, but
mature.
I guess, yeah.
And mature as in the actual word, not like mature. There's blood and DNA and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
actual maturity, real maturity.
Yes. Anyway, Damo's next question: who would you say are the most evil villains you've ever written, and why? And you love your villains, so just take it away, man.
So much fun. They're cathartic. You make them do bad things. You get away with it. In terms of outright evil, Eggman's probably towards the top, considering he's got nuclear war and mass genocide and enslavement and all sorts of stuff under his belt.
Yeah, not a lot beats mass genocide.
Not really, no. Brain Emperor out of New Crusaders is pretty much up there, considering he wiped out the old heroes in one issue. And the grand plan he has is pretty darn evil.
And he's also got those eyes. Can't forget the eyes.
Yes, the eyes. And I don't know, in terms of outright evil villains, I suppose Dr. Finis is pretty darn evil, what with the whole murder everyone so the world is better.
Yeah, but he hasn't actually completed his goal yet, so it's going to be aspirations versus actual actions.
True enough. But considering he made Interjack for the point of destroying the world, I think I think we know where it would have gone.
Yeah.
Aspirations are only go so far.
And the final question: as a writer, you've doubtlessly encountered plenty of criticism. Is there any complaint in particular that you now feel you're better equipped to address?
See, I'm not sure what that question is asking. What am I better equipped to address?
Well, I think it's what were common criticisms in your early days on Sonic that you feel like you've solved those criticisms. You've okay, not great. Now I don't know how to. You're more able to avoid
basically something people have had criticisms in the past that you feel you've improved upon.
Thank you, Jason.
Still, that's kind of tricky. If anything, it feels like I've gotten more criticism than when I started out. When I first started, it seemed like I couldn't do any wrong, and that was a little disconcerting. It's like, okay, I'm just now writing. Somebody tell me something I'm doing wrong. Come on. And now it's gotten much more, I don't know, focused, almost nitpicky in some ways. I guess one
period's been over.
that and it's really hard to address criticism without either A, sounding like I'm agreeing with them and thus debasing myself, which is not good, or if I'm combating it and then it sounds like I'm just being defensive, and that's not good either. So Kind of a loaded question. Back in the corner, starting to talk like Shatner.
Oh, I'm sorry for including that kind of question then.
No.
But
we can't have just easy answers.
Yeah, we have to have some hard ones.
If there's one criticism I've seen a lot of, it's I guess it's pacing.
Yes, that's what I was going to bring that up.
A lot of build, very quick climax, which I can understand. Some of that is out of my hands because there's been, especially 2012, there was a lot of unexpected changes throughout the year. But I don't know, it's something for me to keep in mind and work towards, and it's actually something. Here's one, I guess. I've seen criticisms around about the Sally arc not feeling like it's giving a lot of payoff, and that was a little disappointing since what she was doing was pretty evil, but since she's stopped at every turn, it doesn't quite have the same effect. It's that aspirations versus effect I was talking about. So the way I'm approaching post-crossover stuff is with that in mind. Try to pick up the pace a little bit. Still have the long-term goals that I've always worked with, but maybe try to get a little bit more of a punch out there a little quicker.
And this is the final question from our first set. After this, Jason will be taking over. Daluna13 asks, I was wondering how you write the dialogue and actions for 4 books. More specifically, how do you think of what each character will say or do?
That's no fun. The follow-up took out the ridiculous sarcastic answer. How do you write dialogue? Well, I just type on a keyboard. That's not funny. And I don't know. It's one of those. It's a question kind of like, how do you come up with all those ideas? And there's not really a good answer. I guess it's when I approach it, I kind of entered this mindset from when I took my various theater courses in school, and I guess I'm a method actor. Get into the head of the character and do as they would do. Don't act. Be the character. That school of theatrical training made the most sense to me. So that's the kind of mindset I approach the characters with. It's not, what do I want Sonic to say? It's, in this situation, what would Sonic say? I mean, there's obviously an overarching idea to give it direction, but again, going back to like the Dr. Light and Agent Stern conversation, it wasn't so much, I need them to say these points on these pages. It's how would the conversation flow as I'm more or less talking to myself and make it work within the comics layout.
Interesting.
All right, we're about to hit the...
I've never thought of it like that, where it's you're trying to act in your head. Now, before we move on to Tier 2, we're going to take a quick little break.
Yes, I was just going to suggest that.
We're going to play Ian Flynn. What Sonic song do you absolutely loathe?
Loathe?
Yes. Do you have any Sonic songs that you loathe?
Loathe?
Yes.
Aside from the drowning jingle?
Yeah.
There was one that I actually had shuffled on my phone the other day. I was like, no, why is this on my phone? Delete, be gone. What was it? Oh, my goodness. Probably one of the multiplayer tracks out of Sonic 2. They were not that good. The main tracks were great. The multiplayer were not so much.
All right. Well, we'll be playing a multiplayer track for you while during the break. So enjoy.
If I can find one.
But, you can find
one.
Don't
go out of your way.
All right.
It's okay.
Go way out of your... Okay, if you can't find it, then just pick something from Sonic 06 that is okay. That is terrible. Like,
the music was actually not that bad in that.
I know there was at least one song I didn't like in that game. We'll discuss this later. Anyway, yeah, we'll take a quick break
now. Out of stereo, That was pretty well.
Okay, you shush. Sing when you're Sing when you're doing the next set of questions.
All right, be right back.
I hope you enjoyed that glorious, glorious spike going into your eardrums. We are back, of course, with Mr. Flynn and Mr. Barry, and Mr. Barry is going to be asking Mr. Flynn some questions. Mr. Barry, take it away.
Okay, Big Al Sun asks, will Scourge and Fiona be revisited soon after being absent for nearly 2 years? This is one I got quite a bit.
Has it been 2 years already? Really?
Passes, doesn't it?
Yeah. No, we're not going to be getting them to them immediately. Okay. Let's go for an even 3 years.
That's not even, though. That's odd. So,
you.
And my infernal math.
You, Weisenheimer, you with your puns and your joke making.
No,
can't see it, but I'm shaking my fist so hard at you.
Let's see, Mondo asks, under that quiet and gruff exterior, is Bark something more than he seems? And are you ever going to explore his backstory and why he's fallen in with fellows like Knack and Bean?
There is a story to be told, but the longer we don't tell it, the more interesting it is. So you're just going to have to wait on old Bark.
Yeah, Bark really is silent Bob to Bean's J.
More or less, yeah.
Alrighty. Does Din, try to say that 3 times fast, asks, any plans for Team Dark anytime soon?
Maybe. Still have to iron things out and get approvals, but there are potential plans for Team Dark.
Okie doke.
At the very least, you'll see him in the crossover.
Well, that's good to hear. Kareem Adim, I'm getting a lot of hard to pronounce names here.
All part of my master plan.
Are we going to see Shade the Echidna again? Are we going to see Honey the Cat? And is Mr. Flynn interested in completing the Sonic Chronicles story?
Maybe. Again, things have to be prepared, things have to be pitched, things have to be approved, but there's thoughts, there's plans.
I mean, it doesn't look like Sonic Chronicles, the game, is going to be wrapped up anytime soon, so that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if we were going to include Chronicles, we probably would have to... Here's the thing with Chronicles, it automatically takes place, 3 years after whatever happens in the main continuity?
Yeah, Sonic's 18 in that.
So, for us to include Chronicles, we would automatically have to kind of buck the continuity just a little bit so that we didn't have to do some kind of weird time skip. But, I don't know. I think what folks are most interested in is exploring the Nocturnus a bit and having Shade be a returning character. So as long as we did that, and we're faithful to at least the facts of the stories, I think folks would be pretty cool with it. But, again, there's a lot of other things that have to fall into place first.
Alrighty. The JC Freak asks, how do you usually go about adding pop culture references? Are they planned out, or are they fairly spontaneous? And do the artists ever add references of their own? I remember Spaz doing this way back in the day without it being in the script.
It varies. I mean, sometimes I've got a joke in my head and it's like, oh, where should I use that? Where should I use that? Where should I use that? And then other times I'm writing it up and it's like, that would be funny. I'm going to put that in there. I know Tracy Yardley's done a few. It's not really a pop culture reference, but in the Scourge arc, when you see Mephiles and Void at the table going, dude, what's that guy's problem? That was all Tracy. he emailed me and said, "Hey, wouldn't this be funny?" I said, yes, that's great. Put it in there.
And of course, sorry.
There's a issue of Sonic X where Bo-Kun is dressed as Eggman and is stealing pastries from a pastry shop.
I remember this one.
And Tracy made the name of the shop, "Go Ahead, Bake My Day." That was not in the script. I wish it was. I wish I could claim that. That's all Tracy. And there's all sorts of little things like, again, not a pop culture reference, but in terms of artists adding their own little thing. There was a bit where in Sonic 230, when Mega Sally drops Sonic out the Death Egg, and Eggman kind of just leans in and wiggles his fingers goodbye. Pretty sure that was all Ben Bates, and that made the moment. It was just delightful.
Yeah, it looked great. Speaking of that Sonic X scene, there was also a internet reference there where Spoken steals 50 cakes, and Sonic says, "That's terrible."
Yes. Speaking of internet references, there's also
I love that.
Eggman's "Snooping as usual, I see."
Oh, that whole issue is just full, because they're funny, but there's no way they would make any sense in any context. So with Eggman running around just bat caca crazy, it's like, all right, we're going to use the Eggman memes here because we're never going to use them ever again. I mean, he got the egg tortoise from the show. It's from the show? It's from the show! I'm going to be a TV star.
Okay, Captain Harlock asks, assuming Sega and Archie allowed it, would you introduce a gay character into the comic? And if Sega mandated it, would you, by the way, rather make a new character or an established one come out of the closet, without naming specific names, of course?
To the general question, sure. No problem. I've got no problem whatsoever having a gay or lesbian character in the book. This had a bit of a flare-up on the Bumble King forums a few years ago, because for reasons that I really would rather not get into, the notion was introduced that a certain character was gay all along when there was no real evidence for it, and when I said as such, I was branded as being homophobic. That was not my point. My point was, this is Sonic the Hedgehog. It's a 20-page monthly glorified ad for a game about a cartoon rodent that runs really fast. Gay and lesbian rights don't really belong there. That's like trying to combat the issue of child soldiers with Slappy the Clown. It's not really appropriate, and if anything, I think it's kind of demeaning. At the same time, you can address larger issues within something like this. It's just, it doesn't need to be a big banner waving event, you know? To me, if you introduce a gay character, it should be that it's a character that happens to be gay. Novel idea here, gay people are just people, and they happen to like the same gender. Need to calm down about it, just a little bit. So, if Sega said, hey, all of a sudden, I don't know, Big the Cat is gay. Guess what? Big is gay, and that's how it is. No problem. If we were to introduce someone in the book, I don't know. We'd really have to look at who we had and who it would make sense for. I mean, obviously, Bunny and Antoine aren't. They're married. Sega characters are kind of off limits because I think Sega's position is everyone's virtually asexual, more or less. They are not as hung up on the relationships as the fandom is.
Yeah, if only the fandom would have got a clue from that.
The fandom is passionate.
Yes, it's very passionate.
So, I don't know. It would really depend on what would it bring to the character and what would it bring to the world overall. You know, I don't want to just throw in a homosexual character just to say, hey, look, we're progressive. There's a homosexual character. Look at the gay character. See how progressive we are. Look. That seems counterintuitive to the entire point of, equality. So, short answer, yes. Long answer was that meandering thing I said back there.
Alrighty. Considering possibly all of Sonic Extreme material is still Sega's to use, and how Honey the Cat appeared on Sonic the Fighters recently, Do you think Sega would allow you to introduce unused elements from games or altogether unused games? Being more specific, if you want, how likely would they allow you to in the introduction of a Tiara Bobowski, possibly with a name change?
Yeah, I don't know if we can get away with Bobowski. I know that some of the bosses were a little iffy about Fukurikov. And it's like, yeah, something with boob in the name, may not work. But I think Sega would be okay with it. Again, we'd have to pitch it, it'd have to be approved, we'd have to do the proper planning, etc., etc. Specifically in Tiara's case, even if Sega does own it lock, stock, and barrel, I'd like to somehow get in touch with Chris Sen, because he was the one who put all that information out there. That's the only reason why anybody knows anything about Tiara. And I'd like for him to at least say, yes, you have my blessing, my child. Take my Manx, cat, hedgehog, whatever she was, because it was never nailed down, and make stories about her. So, but I think the last time I saw his website, it was kind of dead, and the forum seemed to have gone dormant. So,
yeah.
If anybody who knows Chris Sen, point him in my direction. I want to talk to him.
Maybe we can get Madonna in there somehow.
Oh, yes. That's what this book needs, a busty blonde in a cocktail dress. That's what a hedgehog needs. Good night almighty.
Okay, Twin B Mark II, I guess it is, or MK2, asks, do you ever hope to bring Princess Elise into the comic? If so, any ideas on how to change fan opinion about her, as you did with Silver?
See, the wording of that one's kind of interesting. I don't hope to bring her in. It's not like I lie awake at night going, oh, when I bring the much-coveted Elise into the book? Oh, when? But I'm always up for a challenge, and I wouldn't mind bringing her into the book and exploring the character a bit. She's not high priority in the slightest. But if the story were to lend itself to it, then yeah, maybe. We'll see. I mean, this ties back into the earlier question about Mephiles. If we were to bring Mephiles into the book, it would call into question what stage in her life was Elise. Is she free of Iblis? Does she still have a cataclysmic case of heartburn? What's going on between the two of them? So, I don't know in long.
Alrighty. Shonic Coolhog asks, Ian, knowing that you are a writer, you must have studied Shakespeare at one point in your career. So what is your favorite Shakespeare play and why?
I thought everybody knew that I actually had a bit of a Shakespeare focus when I was pursuing my English degree. Yes! I do love the bard. All the world's a stage and we are just actors upon it. Okay, stop that. Favorites, A Midsummer Night's Dream ranks up there. A Much Ado About Nothing is a fun one. Absolutely hated Two Gentlemen of Verona, so there's your litmus of what Ian likes in terms of Shakespeare.
Alrighty. One of my artist friends here,
friend Tigsy.
Yep, Tigsy asks, who's your favorite Sonic Archie character to write for that's not from the games?
Mogul ranks up there pretty high. Just because I've always enjoyed the eloquent monster type characters. He's this, behemoth, but he is... Oh, it's been so long since I wrote a Mogul line, I don't have any big words to trot out off the top of my head. I feel so sad.
Magnanimous.
Yes, there we go.
The verb is so huge.
Anti-disestablishment terrorism.
He's simple in his complexity, yet complex in his simplicity. He waxes philosophically anon about the socio-political ramifications and such, ergo, whatever. Have a peanut. Scourge is fun. Oh. It's kind of hard to switch gears because I've been writing the crossover. The crossover is the most recent thing I've really been invested in. It's all been Sega characters. So I have to get back into the mindset of the non-Sega cast. There's a few. Let's just put it at that. That's a nice blanket answer.
We may have to come back to that someday.
If you weren't writing for the comics, what would you like to do?
Nothing else. That's the one thing I want to do. There's nothing else that I would prefer.
Alrighty, that's a pretty rock solid answer there. Axel T. Rat asks, what are your favorite Sega games outside of the Sonic series?
Let's see. I recently played through... Wait, Sega games or just games in general?
Sega games.
Do they have to be current?
No.
No, they do not. No, go as old as you want.
Master System era, whatever.
Okay, we're gonna fall back on the good old standby Skies of Arcadia. I will. Every interview I'm in, I seem to just say Skies of Arcadia was the best thing ever. Want more, but it's true. I freaking love that game series.
Yeah, that is an awesome series.
It's my favorite JRPG of all time. I've been writing this big thing about it for Sega Bits. It's what got me into the genre to begin with. So,
Alright.
Why do you like Skies of Arcadia?
It's fun. It's bright, it's colorful, the characters are endearing. I mean, Vice is such a freaking bro, man. And it has its darker elements here and there, but they never become overpowering.
Sorry.
It's just something that it delights in the fantasy and the farce, and you've got rainbow-colored swords, and you throw moons at people, and there's boats that fly in the air, and Drachma's got a giant steampunk arm the size of his boat himself, and come on, Gilder is the manliest man who ever manned things.
Oh God, yes. It is like the polar opposite of a lot of those sort of emo JRPGs that other companies make.
Yeah, I mean, sure, the most recent Final Fantasies are absolutely gorgeous on a technical standpoint, but they don't engage me at all with the characters or the story. It's just it seems to have gotten so wrapped up in itself that it ceases to be a game and it's more of a thing. Skies of Arcadia is fluff, really. I mean, it's not deep or innovative in any way, but it's fun. It's just a bag of candy. It's delightful.
All right, on a similar note, do you have any favorite Capcom series games besides Mega Man?
I just recently played through a game called Asura's Wrath.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Did you get all the DLC for that?
Most of it, yeah.
At the least, you got the end chapter, right?
I didn't quite get to that one.
Why they didn't break that up into what do they call it? An episodic, game? I'll never know, because if it had that anime.
I don't know. It's like that somebody came and said, "Hey, I've got this great idea for a short anime series." Well, we can't do an anime series. All right, what if it was a video game? Yeah, sure, why not? That has lesser production values or something. I don't know. Yeah. But seriously, the final boss, the DLC boss.
Oh man, I gotta get back to that.
That's a work of art. I'm not kidding. That transcends gaming and
there
becomes...
are so many over-the-top moments in that game. It's just crazy.
You stab a guy through the earth. I mean, my God.
You punch the earth in the face. The earth has a face, and you punch it.
It's like they took Dragon Ball Z, upped it by 1,000 in terms of scale, and then turned it into a video game. This is kind of how you should do a Dragon Ball Z game, except not even Dragon Ball Z has those gigantic planet-sized giant Buddha things.
That and my wife and I were actually researching some of it, and all the Buddhist and Hindu cultural references in it. It's really just brimming with stuff that you wouldn't even think of. Like, the way that the textures on his face change is as he gets more beat up and takes on that kind of weird flaky painted look is a direct reference to a style of the sculptures they made during the period.
Huh, I never knew that.
What an Asura is within the mythology. Some of the names, some of the symbolisms, like the multiple arms and the rings that appear behind their backs. The earthworm itself, Vlitra, just everything in it is actually a reference to something, and when you take that into account, it adds to it. It's just a really, really neat game.
Myself,
and other Capcom series, Dead Rising is delightful. Absolutely love that set.
That's probably my most fun zombie game. Just because they just treat them like rag dolls, and you can just have fun with them and pop what do they call them? The little trombones servants' heads on them. I forget their names right now. Myself, as far as Capcom goes, I've put in over 100 hours now on Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. I'm really addicted to that one.
Nice.
Alrighty, Squeaky Boots 13 asks, you mentioned before that the Bumble King forums only represents a small amount of the fandom, which is true. Can you give us a general idea of which Archie characters are currently popular from your perspective? Maybe a top 3 to 5? It seems that our tastes are a bit different than the average comic fans.
That one bugs me a little. Let me qualify. I didn't say Bumble King was a small representation, which it is. It's the online fandom as a whole that is a smaller portion of the greater fandom. Something that folks seem to kind of lose perspective on is not everyone is online.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I live online. I understand that thinking. There are other people out there who read the book and enjoy it. So when, even if all the major Sonic forums out there united at once and said, blow up Sally Acorn in this unanimous voice, because we all know how unanimous Sonic fans are online.
Oh, yeah, they're all just one big happy family.
It would still not be the end-all, be-all influence. We still read and take in those criticisms, of course. We don't just say, online, that doesn't matter. But folks need to realize that just because the 30 people that you're talking to online agree with you doesn't account for the other 10 to 20,000 people who are reading the book. That said, I can't really think of any character off the top of my head that is immediately more popular within the snail mail versus the online game. So I'm afraid I don't really have a great answer for that.
Alrighty. Currently, we have a lot of great artists working on the comic. I know you're running the show when it comes to writing the main series, but do you think we'll see someone else on writing duties in the foreseeable future?
I can tell you right now, I will not be writing the first Universe arc after the crossover.
Ooh.
Built intrigue. And there are other folks that might pick up at some point, so you never know. I mean, they're happy with what I'm doing now, but if I got hit by a bus, they need a backup plan. So they're always looking for what happens if Ian catches Ebola.
I guess I got to start editioning my stuff a little more.
They should hire another Sonic fan. Maybe.
There you go.
Maybe, I don't know, someone who's written a certain thing about eggs and hedgehogs. I don't know.
Okay, though.
Nothing never gained. This is not an invitation for people to start mailing me anthrax, though.
That would disqualify you, by the way, if you were to do that. So, yeah.
Let me see. Maverick Dingo asks, is Mega Man's universe part of the cosmic interstate or somewhere outside it?
Outside it. Mega Man's universe, his multiverse, if you will, is wholly separate from Sonic's.
Ooh.
Mega Man is not a derivative of Sonic or vice versa. They each exist in their own cosmos, and it's because of the geniuses of Dr. Eggman and Wily and the Chaos Emerald that they were able to bridge the two.
Huh. So we now not only have a multiverse, but a multiverse.
Yes.
Huh.
Alrighty. Sinozo, I think that is, or Sinazo, I'm not sure, asks, you mentioned Gizoids in Sonic 248. Does this mean Emerald, Gemerald, and the Gizoids from Chronicles can be used in the near future? And what about Eggman Nega?
Should have seen that one coming the minute I dropped that one out there. Ian said Gizoid. That means everything's available, right? No, we got away with a name drop, and anything else we're going to have to, again, prepare, pitch, and get approved. So, I mean, I think it's kind of funny that most people keep chomping at the bit to see Emerald, even though we know how his story ends. Yeah. Gemerald, who doesn't have any real character, and Dr. Nega, who is kind of neat, but he's not that neat. And it's more like everyone wants to see them because they can't. It's that whole, having a thing is not so pleasing as wanting it kind of.
Yeah.
So when we have the ability, and if it lends itself well to the story, sure, we'll see about bringing them in. Until then, relax. We've got a bunch of other things we can do that are just as interesting.
Well, I think like the main defining trait of Eggman Nega, aside from being like having like a white mustache, is that he's supposed to be eviler than regular Eggman. But the Eggman, the Sonic comics, is already pretty damn evil, so I'm not sure how you're going to top that.
Well, the mannerisms are different because you've got Nega is much more refined. He's a little more eloquent. He's a little more dignified in how he conducts himself. And when things go wrong, he's quicker to hit the blow up everything button than Eggman. Yeah. So he's a little more ruthless. But again, yeah, like you said, the comic Eggman is a few shades darker than his game counterpart.
Yeah, he's Eggman Nega. He's a bit chaotic. That one. Let's see. Are the Black Arms and the Zorda off limits? And will they ever be fighting each other? Does this mean that we'll never see Sonic explore the space, kind of like the Meteoric saga of Sonic X?
Give me just a second. Let me send to something real quick.
I knew you were going to start doing something. I need to learn some songs, damn it.
This is a Sonic podcast. You should have done the no way thing if you plugged in Sonic and Knuckles to some other game. Okay, enough about that. Black Arms, Zorda. They are currently blowing the crap out of each other in space. And if they ever finish, we might see the Black Arms. And I'm not really interested in sending Sonic into space for more adventures because that's rarely done well. Which is to say, I can't think of an example where it has been done well.
Let's see.
Not to speak ill of Pro Bowlers. I mean, he had some fun stories and tossed in space, but it didn't really do much. And I personally hate the Meteoric saga.
Oh god, it was like fan fiction that third season.
It was definitely of a very different tone compared to the rest of Sonic X.
It was way too dark.
It was the space adventures of awesome Captain Tails and his friends, basically.
Well, see, the only redeeming thing about the Meteoric saga was Cosmo. She was an interesting enough character. The kind of young first romance between her and Tails was interesting for Tails' character, and the fact that he had to blow her up and turn her into a tree was actually rather sad. I mean, that part was actually rather well done overall. And you have to give Meteoric Saga credit for having the only instance where we got to see Shadow fight Knuckles, even if it was briefly. And that was freaking cool.
Yes, it was.
It was also Tails' crowning moment of awesome when Shadow has stalked them into the inner workings of the ship, and Tails says, "Go away." Shadow says, "No." So Tails shoots him out into space with the giant cannon. That that was pretty cool.
The whole
so
episode is like a Terminator kind of thing to it.
Anyway, back to the point of the question. I'd rather spend my time and energy exploring Mobius and exploring the characters that are there than throwing Sonic out into space and saying, hey, here's whole new planets and races and characters and who gives a crap. They don't mean anything to Sonic. Let's stick to the planet and have our adventures there.
And for the record, this is probably going to be the last time we take this question for a very long time, because I've seen you answer this thing like 6 or 7 times. I just wanted to make sure there was nothing exchanged. So, yeah.
Alrighty. What can you tell us about your future plans for the Nerbs?
Nothing concrete for the immediate future. What you saw in the encyclopedia was a moment of weakness brought on by John Gray. This is all his fault. All his fault. Because he kept bugging me. Hey, Ian, when are you going to bring back the Nerbs? When are you going to bring back the Nerbs? When are you going to bring back the Nerbs? Until finally, something fired in my brain that said, how would you bring back the Nerbs? And I thought of a way. And I hate myself for that. And then Tracy came up with really good designs for them. So, they're there. It's possible. I don't wanna. Maybe if I run out of other ideas, it's like, fine, I'll do the stinking bloody Nerbs.
So, what is Jason Gray's? What is John Gray's current cause at the moment, anyway? There's always something he's lobbying to bring back. So, what's going to be the next thing he's going after?
Actually, they've got him shackled with putting the Sonic Digest together.
Right.
He's also a regular production artist, so he's so busy that he doesn't have time to bug me with anything right now. Ha ha.
Well, John Gray, if you're ever listening to this, I'm trying to come up with something, man. Come on.
No. Actually, it came as perfect timing because after Nerbs and Bivalve, he was starting to get on Starhawk. Or not, Hawk.
Hawk, huh? I'm going to have to look that up.
Hawk. With his eyes that shoot beams. Stupid. I don't want to do Hawk.
I never even heard of Hawk, to be honest.
That was what he was trying to get me to do next, was frickin' Hawk, so.
Okay. Looking that up.
Bad idea.
Speaking of the Digest, I'm really happy to see Professor Pickle and Wentos in the comic in some form or another. Really enjoy that.
They are delightful.
Alright, and Scruffy asks, do you think Sega will ever give you enough advance notice and collaboration to allow you to fully incorporate a new game into the comic rather than just as another time, another place thing? Would you even be interested in doing something like that, considering that the Sonic Adventure adaptation was something of a mess?
Well, to the credit of everyone who did the Sonic Adventure adaptation, they were working under the worst possible conditions for an adaptation, and they pulled together to make a coherent enough story, all things considered. They were going off of Spaz's notes off of the English subtitles of the Japanese version that he imported.
Spaz is so awesome.
So, I mean, the Sega of today is much nicer than that. That said, I don't think we ever would get that kind of advance because, and this is not to say big bad Sega, it makes sense because we would need at least 6 months of development time to throw out our current plans, figure out what they have, figure out where it fits with us, and negotiate what we would do in the book and how it would sync up with what they want represented in the game. And 6 months of development time for a game is huge.
I think that was like Sonic Colors was made in 18 months, so that would be it would still have been in its alpha stage at that point.
Exactly. So by the time we would have our story ready to go, they would maybe have something completely different ready to ship. So they're busy making the best game that they can. The last thing they need is the North America exclusive comic to be bugging them for plot details. It just doesn't make sense for them to prioritize us. The another time, another place scenario is the happy medium. We get to acknowledge the game. It's done without throwing our schedule off by months, and we don't have to worry too much over what Sega wants shown at the time. Like another example, when we did the Sonic Unleashed tie-in, they didn't want us to reference Chip.
Wow.
You can't do Sonic Unleashed without Chip.
Yeah.
It's kind of the plot. So had they, wanted to maintain that for whatever reason, I guess it was to preserve the surprise. I don't know. It was just I don't remember getting a reason. It was just don't use Chip. We wouldn't be able to do Sonic Unleashed, So we got it now with the Another Time, Another Place, and then we adapt it later when we can make it fit better, I think is the best overall.
Yeah, because I will say, Adventure is kind of a mess. You had to put everything into a separate city from a zone and everything, and that's how we got the change on Amy. What have you?
Well, folks, the folks rag on Sonic Adventure, but I would even say Sonic Adventure 2 was even more of a problem because you had the one tie-in issue in, what was it, number 98? 99? And then we didn't even get to follow up on it until Sonic Universe number 2.
Which was about 8 years later, I believe.
Even it wouldn't have been an easy adaptation because at the time, Tails wasn't Tails and Knuckles was green. So you just can't reconcile that. Unless, Rouge kicked all the green off of Knuckles and he gathers up the shards and turns green again. I don't know. So it's just too much hassle for all parties concerned. Ultimately, you're getting fun Sonic comics. Let's just be happy with that. Let us be thankful for what we have.
If you don't mind throwing in a question, you're saying back that I guess Amy did grow older from the magic ring after all. So, what age would you say she's around?
Sonic-ish age. I don't like putting too fine a point on it because Sega doesn't want us to put too fine a point on it, so teenager. Right. Non-creepy teenager age.
Alrighty. It's just that sometimes I notice that they reference her as still as part of the kids' table, kind of like with Tails and that.
Well, she...
What, in the games or in the comics?
In the comics, I noticed, even, I think it was Jeffrey and somebody else mentioned her and Tails, and they creamy together as kids.
What, during my run?
Yeah, I think it was, I think Jeffrey mentioned it at least once when he was finding the Freedom Fighters in one of the, one of the arcs 2 years ago.
Well, there he's just being a jerk. That's not what
That's
definition of it. She's still a junior member of the Freedom Fighters because she hadn't joined until basically the Adventure arc. But yeah, Jeffrey was just playing mind games at that point. Tails has proven himself to be an equal within the rest, but he still called him, a lesser boy. And it's good to have Jeffrey St. Jerk running around throwing around one-liners like he used to back in the day, being a swaggering, stinking skunk.
Alrighty. Finn the Fox asks, as a comic writer, not so much artist, how do you show your potential employers that you could be a great author when you are essentially unable to make any strictly comic book work for a portfolio?
That was something that was a wall I hit when I was first applying, and it's still not, there is no easy way. Let me put it that way. What I did was I put together basically improvised scripts. This is how I would write the comic, and this is what I would send to an artist for them to draw it up. And my formatting was absolutely horrible, but I got my point across. Mike Pellerito saw what I could do. Because I had so much trouble, I've got templates and examples on my forum for folks who are up and coming and want to basically steal my job. I mean, break into the industry. So just Bumble King forums. It's in the info mega thread off the Bumble knowledge base, and it's got the very basics how-to script examples so that you're not going in blind. It's got enough resources to get you started and to figure out what you need to do, but it still leaves you with room to work on it and grow yourself.
Yeah, I actually studied off of that a little bit when I was doing Sonic Eggs, and I had Yardley doing a few pages on that. So I still had a lot to learn, though, because I couldn't cut myself down to no more than 6 panels, and some of them were too detailed. So he was...
Yeah, you have to learn how to get around that one. There's a page out of The Darkest Storm where there were at least 27 characters fighting all at once, all in unique poses, and every stage of development. Penciler wrote "Kill Ian," inker wrote "Kill Ian" on the page, colorist wrote "Kill Ian" on the page. It's like, yeah, in retrospect, that was kind of too much.
Yeah, but that was your first story, so.
Yeah. And then you've got people like Tracy and Ben Bates who can take anything you throw at them and make it work. And I don't know if we've announced this yet. I think we have. But Ben Bates is working on the 3rd chapter of the crossover. And that's where things really hit a fever pitch. And it's like, okay, I know what Ben can do. I'm going to abuse his talent so bad. And it's going to look so good. And you people are going to just flip out. I've seen some of his breakdowns and early concepts of his pages, and oh man, it's nuts! Oh my god, I can't believe we're getting away with this. It's going to be great.
I really love Ben Bates' stuff. He does a great job.
Yeah, Ben Bates and Tracy... Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, also I want to thank Tracy Arley for being so patient with me on those pages that he did for me. Tracy
Yarley is spectacular.
Oh, he's probably the best guy in the industry. I mean,
he is the nicest. He is the nicest person I have ever met.
Isn't he though? He's just so nice. He's just such a nice guy. The first time we met at Heroes Con in Charlotte a few years ago, we're just hanging out. We both started out on the book, and we're just talking about how cool it is to finally be working on a real comic, and what other stuff we would do if we had the chance. And it's like, it'd be great, a Darkwing Duck comic. And he's like, yeah, what did he look like again? And he just doodles Darkwing Duck right there on the page. I was like, oh, you were doing Sonic style, and now you're doing Disney style immediately. Huh. And I can't do anything better than just a pencil doodle. And you're a really nice guy. What a jerk. All talent, and you're modest, and you're nice. It's just, come on, man. Let some of us catch up. All I can do is write, and I'm mean to people, so come on.
That's hilarious. Alrighty, I guess we'll go into Silly Tier, and then I'll have...
Actually, maybe we should take another quick break?
You think so? Alrighty.
Unless, if it's alright with you, Ian.
Hey, take a break, move on forward. I'm good for both.
All right, we'll take a quick break, and then we'll get back to you. And let's see, why don't you pick a nice happy tune for this one, Jason? Like Sonic's theme from Sonic Adventure. Yeah, that one.
The rockin' one, or the one from Sonic Adventure 2, or it's a little more happy and peppy?
Oh, yeah, that one, Sonic Adventure 2.
Okay. And we'll be right back.
I'm just living by my own feelings, and I won't give
hope you are feeling a lot happier after that little jaunty tune. And we're also going to be covering a few silly questions in a moment. But first, I want to ask Ian about his new online project with former Sonic artist Don Best, Silvana, which recently had a successful Kickstarter and should be debuting. Ian, tell us about it.
Number one, yeah, we had a successful Kickstarter. Holy crap. I mean, we were hoping to maybe get just enough within the 30 days. And we were fully funded within the first 48 hours, I think. And we were something ridiculous, like 260% funded by the end of it. It's just, good night.
The power of Sonic fans.
Seriously. I also want to specify, this is more Dawn's project. I'm just the writer for it. It's her vision, her characters. She handled the Kickstarter. She's doing the main plot line. She did the character design. She's doing the art. She's handling all the prizes and all the merchandising and the printing and yada, yada, yada. All I'm doing is I'm writing it. So I'm a small cog in her greater vision. This is her project. I'm just the hack that tricked her into letting me write it. But this is something that she's had in the works for like something close to 15 years.
Wow.
Because I remember she first launched the original version of the project when I was first starting to get into the Sonic online community. So,
oh my god, that was like.
Yeah, this is when we still
2001.
communicated with bean cans put together with a string. And we just kind of kept in touch with the project over the years and batted around ideas until finally she got in touch with me. I guess it was middle of last year, saying, hey, I really want to get Silvana really up and moving. Would you still be interested in writing? And I said, yeah, sure. How are we going to afford this? And she said, well, we'll do a Kickstarter thing. I'm like, okay, well, maybe we'll get enough to see that through. And then, again, generosity. Good Lord. Anyway, it's Sonic fans should feel right at home with it. It's a fantasy epic about talking animal people. The world of Silvana is divided into two races. You have the bats and you have the hawks. The hawks are a little more technology-oriented, but they've been kind of beaten back into the darkness by the bats, who are just simply more numerous. And the main story is about this small group that is gathered together by the spirit of time to find the 5 remaining shards of the original crystal star that allowed the 2 gods, Reno and Singro, to create the world that they live in. Their main antagonist is the hawk god Singro, who has just been resurrected. And Singro has half of the star himself. He is the embodiment of creation. So they're kind of up against the wall from the very get-go. And it's a story of them, understanding the whole scope of their quest, the quest itself, and fighting the odds, and this big upheaval in the status quo within the world as Singro leads his people into this kind of uprising. And there's much more to it, like what forces are at play that brought Singro back into power, what's going on behind the scenes. There's this whole pantheon of spirits behind it that are to delve into, and it really is. When I say fantasy epic, I'm not just meaning epic in the kind of loose way that it's used nowadays. I mean, like, it's a sprawling story that we're just getting book 1 going.
Do you have any idea when we may be seeing the first book?
I don't know. I'm working on the first chapter right now, in the early stages, and it all falls to Dawn on keeping me on deadline and how fast she puts it together and what release schedule she wants to do.
All right.
I should plug the website. Silvanaonline.com has a Sylvanna. And that should go there, and you'll get all the updates and what have you on the project as it goes along.
Jason, make a note.
All right. Will this comic be available in print or just as a web series?
Both. I don't know if it's going to be released web first and then print later once it's completed online or what. Again, that's something that Don would be better suited to answer. But you'll have both the electronic and the Dead Tree version to enjoy.
Jason, make a note. Plug website in Segabix Sonic Talk post.
Right.
All right. So, Jason, could you say a silly tier in that silly clowny voice?
Do I have a silly clowny voice?
Yeah, I thought you did. I mean, I always imagine you with one with all your jokes and stuff.
Okay. Hey kids, it's time for silly tier.
There we go. All right. Now this first of two comes from DeLuna. We all know you do an awesome Big the Cat, but what would your Bean impression sound like?
It would make your ears bleed, I'm sure.
Well, that's okay.
I don't know. I don't think I can do Bean as I hear him in my head. I don't have that range.
Ah. All right,
sorry.
Jason.
I do have some pride left.
Curses. We'll have to work on that. Jason, you got the next one?
All right. The illustrious Q asks, exactly how many times did you have to slap yourself to remember that Worlds Collide is a crossover between Sonic and Mega Man, and not the Doctors Eggman and Wily Super Show?
You know, let's stop pretending. It is the Eggman and Wily Super Show, guest starring a couple of blue guys. I mean, just going by fan reaction alone, even outside of the normal communities, Eggman and Wily have stolen the show. That's it. It's done. They've won. It's their story now.
Even if they lose,
That's what I love
even if
about
they eventually
Sonic
lose the war, they will have won the hearts of fans everywhere.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing with Sonic X that I really enjoyed in the comic series was how much of a focus it had on Eggman and his wacky schemes. Really
That
did
is really what
enjoyable.
kind of made the book, I think.
Okay, you're next.
All right, and now we're into the final run of questions. I never thought we'd actually get here, but here we are. Tier 3. Digimon11 asks, which book do you enjoy writing the most? And I get the feeling we're not going to get an answer to this.
The books, they are like my children's. I love them all. I hold them close to my heart. There isn't a favorite, really. There's not a book that I wake up going, oh no, I've got to write a comic book. So sad is my life. No, they're all enjoyable. So I can't pick a favorite. I really can't.
I mean, we are being mostly listened to by Sonic fans, so I'm sure most of us would.
I love the Sonic books most of all, and the Sonic fans. I wish I were a Sonic.
All right, Jason, take the next one.
How has the fan reception been for New Crusaders?
Overall, really good. Again, a lot of people were surprised at how dark it was, even though we told you it's going to be edgy to a point. Not grim dark, but come on.
Yeah, I thought that just meant they'd be saying damn every now and then.
You read issue 6, you know what happens. You know the line.
Oh, yeah. I did not see that coming.
And, I'm a sick person, but when we decided to go that direction, we were still at around issue 3 or 4 in terms of script, and I tried to go as fast as I could because I wanted to get to that scene so bad. I had to plot it out in my head, panel by panel. Just, such a good scene, such a terrifying scene. Love it, love it, love it. Don't know what I'm talking about. Well, you can pick up New Crusaders, Volume 1, Eyes of Heroes at your favorite bookstore now.
Or if you happen to own an iPad, you could also pick it up through the New Crusaders app, which I would highly recommend, as it has lots of comic books that you can get for a relatively low price.
Is that available on Comixology as well?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. I think the entire Archie library is available on the Google store as well.
Sonic Toast asks, you are the best. Anyway, hypothetically, if Nintendo wanted you to write a Mario comic series, will you do it?
Yes.
Okay, can you finish?
Yes, right now. Let me put this out there. If Nintendo asked us to do any comic right now, I'd be all over it. Metroid comic, yes. Kirby comic, yes. Star Fox, absolutely.
Please. So, what would a Mario comic be like?
Probably. I don't want to say Sonic X-ish because that implies, a younger demographic. But I would say Sonic X in the fun factor, not quite as drama and plot driven as Sonic and Mega Man, but something that's more kind of just fanciful adventure.
So Bowser would not be a homicidal maniac bent on wiping out the mushroom people.
Would not be enslaving the Toads, and there wouldn't be any darker implications to him frequently kidnapping the princess. It's his hobby, I guess.
Nintendo, I know you're having some issues right now, so maybe you should look this guy up.
I'd love to just see Bowser and Princess punching a time clock every time she gets kidnapped.
In my mind, a Mario comic would be written in such a way that Bowser would kidnap Peach one week, and then they'd go-karting the next week, and it would still make sense. It's like Bowser isn't this great evil tyrant. He's just this jerk, and you have to stomp on his head every again. Well, what you doing? We do this thing twice a month. Just leave the princess alone, huh? Come on,
so, would Mario talk then? I probably should be getting you all these hypotheticals. I'm sorry, I guess.
I don't know, because it's the impression I've gotten is that Nintendo prefers for him to not talk, and it'd be really hard to tell the story if he couldn't talk. But I don't know. It'd be something it would be something I would more seriously tackle if we actually had the project,
Oh, keep your fingers
crossed.
If you did,
would you have the voice in your head be Charles Martinet or Captain Lou Albano?
It'd have to be Charles Martinet because he's become the plumbers, all of them. He is the voice of Nintendo, pretty much. And he's such a nice guy, so it'd have to be him.
Oh, yeah. From what I've heard of him, he's like Tracy Yardley nice.
Yeah, the interviews, he just looks like this happy grandpa who does silly Italian accents and gets paid for it, which I'm happy with.
So, Jason...
I enjoy talking with him when he does like impressions as Mario at conventions and E3. They have a little like Mario computer animated puppet that he's behind him. That's always cool.
God. I so wanted to interview that thing at Comic-Con, but I never got the chance.
There was one scene I saw where it's like, Mario... have you ever seen Star Wars? Oh, yeah, I love that movie. Lukey, I'm your papa. And I just absolutely lost it. There was an interview with him. He said he was auditioning for it, and they said, okay, just kind of improvise stuff until you run out of ideas. And about 30 minutes later, they said, okay, we've run out of recording equipment. Stop. You got the part. You win.
Oh yeah, I can still remember an E3 where him and he was Wario at the time, and him and my brother got into an argument for a while. But he's like, hey, you're a really rotten person. I like you. That was hilarious. Okay, it's here. Let's see.
Man, again, we're having so much Mario love on this thing.
Okay, once again we got Lalale 2001 asks, have you read any Mega Man manga or watched the cartoon/anime?
I haven't seen any of the classic era anime really outside of what was in Super Adventure Rockman and Mega Man 8. I know I watched some of the Ruby Spears cartoon back in the day. I don't really retain much of it, but I know I watched it at some point. Haven't followed a lot of the manga. I do have some of Ariga's stuff, but I'm really, really trying to pace myself because Ariga's got phenomenal ideas, and I really, really, really don't want to accidentally crib any of those at some point. So I think I've read up through Ariga's Mega Man 4 era, and I'm going to stop right there because I don't want to steal her ideas. She's good, intimidatingly good. I want to do this on my own. I can. I'm a big boy. I can write my Mega Mans.
The Ruby Spears cartoon is such a tease because it had this awesome Japanese animated intro that just like had so much butt kicking in it and the theme and what have you. And then when you watch the actual show, it's just bleh.
And like even has some interesting concepts that fans you think would love, like a Mega Man X comes back. X comes back to Mega Man's timeline. They have a big crossover. But then I actually watched it on YouTube. I was like, "This is it, huh?"
Well, isn't X in that version like this bloodthirsty bounty hunter?
I forget. I've only seen it once on YouTube.
I want to say that's it. It's like they bring in X and they get his character completely wrong.
I wouldn't be surprised. What was the name of that show? Captain N. They had Mega Man in that.
Yeah.
That was such a horrible one.
Now, this next question is going to be kind of controversial. You're going to piss off some Sonic fans probably, but you know, you're going to have to power through it.
That was a joke. Please, it was a joke.
Of the Sonic cartoons and anime, which was your favorite?
And it's been a wonderful interview. Good night, everybody.
I can't get away that easily, man.
Out of all of them, Sad AM is my favorite. And I should specify Sad AM Season 2, most of it. Season 1 just was kind of there. I got the box set and went through it again. It's like, really? This is what I was watching? And then I got to Season 2 and the Ben Hurst episodes primarily, and it's like, oh! This is why I liked the show. Okay.
I had a similar realization like that a few years ago.
Not a fan of Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. I get it. It's kooky. It's a little too Ren and Stimpy for me.
But it has the bears. The bears are awesome.
It has the bears. Yeah, it has the bears. That's nice. The OAV is interesting in ways. The whole Land of the Sky, Land of Dark is kind of interesting. And heck, we finally get to see Knuckles.
And Metal Sonic.
Knuckles with a cool hat.
Oh, I hate his English voice. Ugh.
Well, all the voices in that were kind of painful.
Hey, Knuckles, I'm Sonic's best friend!
Though I will say, it does have...
Too.
Well, no offense, Ian, but it does probably have my favorite Sonic line ever, and I'm sure everyone knows what I'm talking about when Sonic and Metal Sonic are just ramming into each other's heads, and I know everything that you're going to do, except I'm not even going to try to say it.
Strange, isn't it? Are you guys familiar with the Source filmmaker at all?
I know what it is.
Yeah, I saw the recent Sonic Adventure adaptation.
Yeah. They recreated that scene in Source Filmmaker, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yes, and it was glorious. Underground, I don't like at all. I'm sorry, Underground fans. I really am. And I earnestly do want to write a satisfying finale for Underground, just to give those fans some closure. I really do want to do the best with that. But not a fan of the show. And Sonic X had its moments.
I like
There's a
season
particular
2.
episode that I really... But
it had these moments of greatness.
few and far between as they were.
Like, I really enjoyed the first episode and the Knuckles episode.
Well, there's several Mephiles. Do you mean the one where he's tricked by Eggman and they got was it Amy and Tails and Chris kidnapped on that?
No, I mean when it's just Knuckles and nothing but Knuckles.
Oh.
No Chris, no Sonic, no Tails. It's just Knuckles on a boat, and I think it was South America or something.
Yeah, there was that one. I don't know. That one was kind of boring.
Yeah, but it had Knuckles in it.
That's all he cares about. Actually, the one that I didn't see till like after the series was over, and I somehow caught it on Hulu. I don't know how I missed it. Was one where Eggman was going to ignite this one super volcano that was going to somehow erupt all the other volcanoes in the world. That would have destroyed half of it. And that one had a lot of Toho Japanese monster references, including Mothra to it. I really enjoyed that one.
My favorite out of all of them is when they go on this ocean liner cruise and Sonic is flipping out because he's stuck on a boat and he's running around on the boat and he can't get off the boat because there's nothing but water. And he starts trying to con everybody into getting him off the boat. Meanwhile, Bo-kun shows up to the estate and is all upset because there's nobody to trick into looking at his exploding TV. And Ella is comforting him, and then you hear the explosion and he flies off going, tee-hee-hee. And then at the very end, as Eggman attacks, Bo-kun all of a sudden is on the windshield going, let me in, let me in, let me in! And here comes Ella flying the X-Tornado, screaming a battle cry.
And that episode is what the entire comic book series was based off of, right?
Yeah, pretty much. That level of, what is going on?
And you can understand Sonic's frustration, because in the series, he barely hangs around with his friends at all. He's always running around to check out the rest of the world. So having them stuck on a boat. It was
weird that Sonic barely had anything to do with his own story.
And that's also one where I think the Japanese dubbing in the subtitled one is a lot better than the dub, because in the dub one, Chris constantly has to explain the jokes to it seems like to the audience.
Yeah, 4Kids is the worst dubbing company in the history of dubbing companies.
And they would have signs that were for some reason blank.
Because they had Japanese text on them.
Yeah, but you take off the text and you put in whatever, and they would just
leave
the sign completely blank instead.
The oddest one of all that I've seen in terms of 4Kid edits is it's a scene where Mr. Stewart is creeping through an art gallery. And there's a piece of abstract art behind him. It's all cubist. It's lines and squares of color. They changed the painting to more lines and squares of color. It wasn't even a reference to a piece of art that could be copyrighted by the artist. It was just... It's baffling. There is no... What is this?
I guess they thought it was too abstract for the kids, and maybe they were trying to make it less abstract.
The exact same thing! It's like a picture with an apple.
You're talking about a dubbing company that replaced a gun with a spring on a hammer. I mean,
let's move on to some other questions. This is just going to get depressing.
Sorry. You're up next.
Okay. Tigsy asks, do you have any video game recommendations besides Sonic and Mega Man, both modern and classic? I think we kind of covered this earlier.
Well, but this is without the Sega Capcom.
Just do the Asura's Wrath, pick it up. That's great. Skies of Arcadia, if you still have something that plays GameCube games, pick up Skies of Arcadia, Legends, GameCube. What else? Here, let's look at my wall of games. Oh, Kid Icarus Uprising. If you've got a 3DS, grab Kid Icarus Uprising.
That's an awesome game.
Kind of spoiled that for you during the last interview, didn't we?
Did you?
Well, okay, I guess we didn't if you don't remember it. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a mind like a steel trap full of mice.
Oh my God! I'm surprised you didn't talk about that when we were talking about Nintendo franchises, because that is like your kind of game, I think, right?
Oh, absolutely. It would be right up there. Fire Emblem Awakening has been a delight. I haven't played it directly, but my wife has been playing it, and I've been enjoying it vicariously. A little dated by this point, but Batman Arkham City was a fantastic game.
Oh, yeah.
I'm actually playing through BioShock Infinite now, and it's been fairly interesting.
Yeah. Though I'm a little disappointed because I had always heard about how the original Bioshock was like Metroid, and I was thinking, okay, great, a Metroid game but in the sky. But it's still a really fun game, but it's a bit more linear than I was expecting.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it Metroidy at all.
Yeah, it's really just an action game.
Personally, I still like the first one a little better on Bioshock.
Well,
I've heard
the story's really strong.
The first one was much more creepy than the others.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't play it. I don't do creepy games.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I can't do. And we just finished a sequence in Bioshock Infinite where it really doled up the creepy, and it's like, okay, I can get through this. We'll go back to flying around rails and shooting things and throwing lightning. Come on. And they get to a certain point. It's like, okay, I've completed this sequence. I can move on with the story, and I turn around and they load one of the enemies right there in your face, and it scared the crap out of me. And
I know which one you're talking about.
I don't think I've gotten that far yet, but don't mind me.
There's a whole YouTube of videos of just that scene with people reacting to it.
Yeah, I just hate that. Hate that kind of cheap pop scare. Anger.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's getting pretty late. Okay, will we be seeing what Blaze is up to, given she is still searching for the Solid Emeralds?
You should be seeing the continuation of Blaze's grand adventure very, very soon.
Ooh.
Alrighty, you're up.
Oh, right. This is where we usually start messing up. Turbo Tails asks, what is the purpose of the Black Emerald, the Ancient Onyx, I think it was called, and will it recur in your future stories?
I don't know if we're going to get back to the Ancient Onyx and its ultimate purpose, but even if we were going to get back to it tomorrow, I can't reveal that. I'm not going to give away spoilers like that.
All right.
Okay, Nitroactive asks, are all Mobians born with magical ability? And can humans use magic?
Well, we've already established that humans can use magic because humans use magic. And I'd almost say Ixisnagus, but he's not really human, is he? He's other.
Part rhino, lobster, bat.
Chimera. Let's call him a chimera. Sure, why not? I would say magical potential is like any other trait. It varies from between individuals. Like, I am not athletically gifted at all. Other people are born and they are just pro athletes almost from the get-go. Some people are more inclined for music. Some people are more inclined for art, for writing, for any number of things. So there would be Mobians and Overlanders and humans and other sentients and whatever out there that could potentially be great magic users, and some that would be born that couldn't bippity boppity or boo.
Okay, now I think I'm going to skip this next question and instead go to the next one. Blaze Heatnix asks, what do you think Sonic's top speed is?
Very fast.
Okay.
One, he's called Sonic for a reason.
Yeah.
And actually, I was playing through Sonic 4 Episode 2 today. Finally got that last stint in Chaos Emerald. And going by the cutscenes, Metal Sonic has the ability to go into orbit from a standing position. So if he's not got that much thrust, and Sonic can keep up with him, that's really fast.
Alrighty, let's see. Line by Line asks, does it ever bother you that when we fans get so into our criticisms and so detailed with discussions on how it should have been written that we end up playing Script Doctor? I'm thinking especially of the discussion around 247, where I and several others started brainstorming about how we'd change the story, how to fix the pacing, which characters we'd cut and like.
If anything, if the criticism has to be, itty-bitty things and you're taking apart small components, if you have to get to the nitpicky stage, I think that's more of a compliment than anything, because you're not saying, okay, this entire issue was wrong because X. If it's, okay, we have to get and dig down and we have to find the individual things that should have been improved, that I think is, saying that the story worked overall. It's just you would have preferred it another way. It is a little, I don't know, frustrating maybe, because you're working under the assumption that you would be able to change those things, and those things were not there for a reason. I mean, I can't immediately think of specific examples of what Line by Line's talking about. I don't want to sound too defensive about this, because sure, maybe it could have been improved in some aspects. I'm not saying that it was some perfectly polished GM. How dare you question my genius? Also, in case anyone's confused, that was also a joke. But I mean, it's really easy to look back at the finished product and say, okay, I would have done X, Y, and Z differently. And I was really guilty of that when I was, up and coming in the Sonic community. But, it's one thing to say this is how it should have been, and it's another thing to take into what was the editor, do they know what the editor said about the script? Do they know what Sega said about the script? Do they know what outlying factors behind the scenes necessitated certain things to happen as they did? There's a lot of variables that the fans just simply can't know about and realistically apply them to the script. That said, there are technical aspects that they can go through and point out, yeah, it could have been done this way and potentially better, in which case I can just shrug, sorry, I did my best, and hopefully you enjoyed it overall.
A good example of things kind of happening behind the scenes that the writer has no control over would be what happened to the Darkest Storm arc, where you had to take this six-issue story and condense it into a 3-issue story. And for years I was really critical of you because I really didn't like the pacing, but then it turns out, but this thing happened behind the scenes, and that necessitated that it be shrunk down like that.
Yeah, it was eliminate these 36 plot points in 3 issues. Go. Also make it fully accessible and feature all the Sonic characters, and it can't be nothing but dialogue. Okay, challenge accepted. Let's have a 27-character fight scene.
Yeah, come on, Fry, you can draw that.
Okay, let's see. Where am I at?
I think.
Oh no,
asked
actually,
the last question.
I did ask the last question.
So, Rashiki Grimes asks, "Is there a character who you love to revamp but could not due to priorities?"
I can't really think of anybody off the top of my head that really needs to be reworked at this point. I mean, at this point, it's kind of, just move ahead with what we got.
Alrighty.
All right.
Spin asks, will Team Fighters get a grace period from non-stop fighting to better define the group once the Mecha Sally storyline is over?
Not to be flippant, but you're asking me to define Team Fighters by not having them fight. Seriously, the point of the team is to go out and do and be in the thick of action. Although I have seen folks saying, we don't really get a lot of interplay between the 3 of them. It's more like they go out and they are part of a larger happening, for lack of a better term. So I can understand the criticism there. I don't think we're going to have a lot of downtime, as folks have been saying, but I am aware that folks want more interplay between the characters and less focus on progressing the plot. More about having the characters move forward with events rather than their move forward by events. So that's something I'm going to try to keep in mind as we move forward.
All right, Alex, you got the final
All
question.
right, so I'd like to add one more purely platonic, not Sonic at all related question before we get to the final question.
Okay.
What are there any other non-Archie books that you are reading and loving right now? Sonic books. Comic books.
No, actually, I'm not reading much anything right now.
Wow. Dang, you must
That
be
isn't
busy.
that isn't a comment on the industry as a whole. Don't take it that way. It's just there's nothing really out there right now that really demands my interest, and I don't really have a lot of time to sit down and read much anymore. And being a comic writer, it's kind of gotten to be not as much fun to read comics anymore because I can't divorce myself from being the writer. So I'll read a book and it's like, okay, the pacing on that is wrong. You should have done it this way, or okay, I understand what this cliffhanger means. They're going to probably do this and this later on, and it stops being escapist entertainment and becomes just a review of other people's work. And
That sounds absolutely horrible. I don't know how.
It'd be like if we're playing, I've heard some game developers complain that once they've developed games, they can't play them anymore because they see where the bounding boxes are. They see where they've covered up for a glitch here or a limitation there, and it's just so sad. It'd be like if you were a car mechanic and you couldn't enjoy going for a Sunday drive or something.
Well, if I may suggest two books I do not think you will find predictable and are definitely worth your time if you ever get the time, I would suggest Robert Kirkman's Invincible and Red 5 Entertainment's Atomic Robo. Atomic Robo
I've read a little bit of, and it's a lot of fun. The dialogue strikes me. Here I go again. See? Dialogue a little stilted. It's almost like if it was just a little snappier, but I haven't read enough to really say that's an informed opinion. I followed Invincible up through, volume 14, where they get to the Vitramite War. And I was so disappointed with that story arc, I dropped the book. I mean, they were
well, so much for my suggestions.
Looking at it, and they were building up towards it, and then we don't see it. It just kind of all happens off panel, and Grayson himself is okay. I'm going to stop because I'm doing exactly what I said I'd do. No,
I'm sorry. All right.
I'm glad
I hope you continue to enjoy it.
For the Sonic and Mega Man fans out there, I'd recommend Super Dinosaur. That one's pretty cute. It's weird though because it's
that I haven't.
I'm sorry.
That one I haven't read, so please.
Okay. What's weird is that is by the Robert Kirkman who does Walking Dead, only it's a kid's adventure comic. Which is surprising, but I mean, he does a really good job with it. All right, go ahead, Alex, on the final question.
And now for the final question.
Final question.
Now we have Mega Man and Sonic together in Worlds Collide. This would be a dream project for many fans and gamers. How excited were you to get to work on this?
I think the little squeaky squeal noise I made only registered on dogs.
Feel free to squeal for the next 20 minutes. I mean, we don't know.
It was almost surreal. It was... Paul calls... I honestly actually kind of thrown together a basic idea a couple weeks before when Paul called me and said, hey, Capcom's offered this, and Sega looks like they're going to be cool with it. Would you like to do it? Do you think you could do it? And after I finished imitating the emergency broadcast system, it was hard to believe. It's everything just came together so easily. It's the universe bending to my will. Which is great for a comic project. Why it won't do that for a lotto ticket, I don't know.
Yeah, you don't want it enough.
Oh, I want it. Believe me. I want them numbers. Anyway.
All right, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you taking all this time with us.
Sure.
Yeah.
Love it. It's rather flattering that people want to hear me speak on things.
Well, you do have a surprisingly nice voice.
Oh, well, hey.
And thanks for becoming a Canadian, which is my mom's nationality.
I'm working on it. The papers are still being processed. Probably not going to hear anything until right in the middle of convention season, right when it's going to make.
Everyone around me is turning Canadian, or they were Canadian and they never told me. What's going on here?
Canadians, where it's all about, man. Get up here, eh?
Well, it's cold up there.
Canadian. I think I'm turning Canadian. I really think so.
You know what's much better than Canada? Florida, with its tropical weather and its palm trees and its lizards.
And its hurricanes.
You come up here in the middle of July and tell me it's cold.
Yeah, but you come down here in the middle of January and tell me that it's hot or cold. Oh, God damn it!
No, frankly, I like the cold weather. I am delighted by snow. I was cackling like a fiend when we actually got winter weather in mid-April. So,
I admit I do miss the seasons of my old home in Virginia. All right, so I guess we're done. And any final words? Any final plugs? Any final people you want to hug?
Be hard to do that over the phone, but
you can just say glomp out loud or hug out loud. Or...
No, we're not going to do that. But I hope everyone continues to enjoy Worlds Collide. If you're not enjoying it, start.
He commands it.
Show extra love to Mega Man if you can, because I would love it if we could turn Mega Man to the same kind of success as Sonic's had. And I want to do a Mega Man X book so bad it hurts, but we can't do that until Mega Man becomes a mega success, and that's not going to happen unless people show it lots of love. So,
or maybe Mega Man wins.
So please, show Mega Man all the love you can, and just keep reading, folks. You're the ones who put food on my table.
All right. Thanks again
and,
so much for your time.
And you can catch another part of this, another interview we conducted with Ian Flynn on sonicstadium.org. Provided we have remembered, there should be a link below this podcast in the Sega Bits website. So, or just go to sonicstadium.org. So, see you later.
Or they're not. You'll just have to go to the website to find out.
Alrighty, see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Good night, guys.
Super fighting robot, Mega Man. Super fighting robot, Mega Man. Super fighting robot, Mega Man. Fighting robot, Mega Man. Super fighting robot, Mega Man. Super fighting robot, Mega